Hello and welcome to the Eleemosynary Moment. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Brad Hathcock. You are also Gavin Newscum.
I am today, yes,
I noticed.
as a California resident. Not happy. We will talk about that in a minute, but go ahead. Do whatever you're going to do.
Well, new year means new bit for the show. This is one that I have been talking to you about a little bit. I would like to try and make cocktails on the show here. I've gotten a number of cocktail books, I like a good cocktail. You'll notice a theme. Most of these will probably be bourbon centric.
Mm,
That is obviously my forte. So today we're going to go with a classic old fashioned.
regale us.
Regale you with what? Like a song?
No, no. Tell us about the what you're drinking, what you're mixing in, what's going on here.
Yes, so today I'm going to make an old fashioned, which generally is just made with sugar cube, bitters, a little bit of water, and some bourbon and orange peel. So I will show you. So I'm going to take my 150th Kentucky Derby glass. You can see that.
Sweet.
Everyone should have one, except you can't because if you weren't there, you didn't get one. Then take one sugar cube
You just
and
put a sugar cube into the glass.
drop it in the glass.
Yep.
Then Angostura bitters.
I like
This
those bitters.
is
Those are good stuff.
it's from Spain,
I have
and
those.
you take one, two, three dashes
Ah, that's a little more than I normally would put.
of Angostura bitters. You'll understand why
Okay.
in a minute. Okay. Then the recipe calls for a bar spoon. You know it's a bar spoon because it's a long spoon
Mm-hmm.
of some water. I personally choose liquid death water
Of course.
because it's delicious, good for the
Everybody,
environment.
everybody likes liquid death.
It's fresh, it's delicious. So, and I'm doing this near my computer.
So you're,
One,
mm-hmm.
and I like a little second bar spoon there. Okay. So, get all the water off of that. Take your muddler. This
Sweet.
is not a dildo, but I guess everything's a dildo if you're brave enough, Aaron.
It looks
And
like
you
a masher. You
smash your sugar
nice.
down into your bitters and your water mix. You know, it's always great to use good, delicious fresh water, which is why I choose liquid death water.
I have one of those. I never knew what it was for though.
It is for muddling shit. So, think if you like to have a mojito, muddling some mint in the bottom of your
Mmm.
glass, something along those lines. Now, for the coup de grace, actually, I forgot my ice. So you are supposed to put ice in here. If you would like to run something, I will go grab a big fucking cube.
Yeah, I can burn some
Run it.
time here. Um, we're getting ready to talk about these fucking wildfires in Southern California and the awful mismanagement going on. And I'm just I've been watching the live broadcast of these fires because I live really kind of close enough that I should be worried at least a little. And it's a tragedy. When Brad gets back, I'll talk about like the failures, but just watching it live, like there are webcams on the communication towers on Mount Wilson, I think, and those are like towers that are used by satellite companies and shit. And I'm watching like live feeds of these firefighters climbing the top of these mountains and putting these fires out. It's wild.
Oh yeah, wildfire talk.
Yeah.
Delicious. Also delicious will be this cocktail. So now I got my ice cube. I highly recommend silicone trays. They're perfect.
I have one, but I have one of those that makes the ball of ice, and those are
Yes.
fancy.
And you have to use a big fucking block, okay?
Yes.
It doesn't really work with small ice. It melts too fast, waters down your whiskey even more. I also have one from 4 roses that actually makes a rose-shaped ice cube.
Mm.
So, open up. I'm drinking Weller Special Reserve. I believe it is 90 proof. So, I like mine typically a little bit higher proof, but this bottle was already open, and I've been killing off my higher proof bottles. I've been drinking a lot of these lately. Then you grab your jigger here.
Mm.
Okay. This one is a 1.5 ounce or a 1 ounce. Most recipes should call for about 2 ounces.
I should
I
say
like
that.
to go 3.
Okay, good for you. We should say to the listener, this is like that hourglass cup looking thing that
Yes, it's called
you
a
measure it
jigger.
out.
So I did 1.5, and I'm doing a second 1.5 to get me up to 3 ounces of whiskey. I might pour in a little more. We'll see. Because, 3 ounces is mediocre in my
The day
opinion.
is young.
The day is young, younger for you.
Mm.
Now, we want to stir it up. This is a cocktail that you do not put in a shaker, sir. You
The,
just stir that up.
the
Get that,
ASMR.
get that sugary deliciousness in there, mixed with the bitters.
That looks delicious.
Mm. Now, for the coup de grace, you get yourself a fucking orange, okay? A nice California burnt orange. I'm just kidding.
What?
They come
You,
from Florida.
he brought a whole orange here. This is a
Well,
whole
that's
ass
because
orange.
you also take your little paring knife and you slice yourself a little bit of orange peel here. Now, I like to try to get a little bit of pulp on there, just
Mm,
just a smidge, because then you
that's good
take said
stuff.
peel and take the peel and your drink, and you're going to twist over your glass.
That brings out the aroma.
Brings out aromas and flavors, and if you get a little pulp in there, you occasionally get a drip or two of orange juice directly into your drink. And then you try to twist it up, and you make yourself a nice little garnish. Now, usually these have cherries in them.
Mm.
I don't like cherries, so I'm not going to waste my money on cherries. Um, so I just ignore that completely. And then you go ahead and you take that first sip.
This looks delicious.
Mm,
Oh,
perfection. Perfection.
mm. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That
That is
turned out
going to
great.
be the new bit. Yes, I actually run on limited space here on my desk. This is also my work desk. I promise you I don't keep this shit just laying around on my desk. Wish I could. I had to set this all up. But yeah, that is how you
It,
make an old fashioned.
it's kind of funny because we both did not plan on this. I'm introducing a new bit as well, but it'll be for the end, not the beginning.
Nice. But
Um,
see, I like to have a nice cocktail when we do this.
yes.
Or usually I'm just drinking some straight bourbon or beer or something along that line. So I figured I might as well just incorporate it a little bit into our entertainment for these people.
I record a little bit earlier in the day, so I'm not going to be making cocktails, but I can see myself making one a little bit later because that looks delicious. And I have all the ingredients.
What's your bourbon of choice there?
Well, I don't know what I have available on the shelf. I don't have a bourbon of choice per se. Um, Maybe I should start getting one.
I have to say, I was drinking Old Forester, 115 proof. That was what I started making my old fashions with. Because actually, up until about 2 weeks ago, I had never made my own old fashioned. I usually just drink my bourbon neat, get right to the point. But I do love a cocktail, so I got a lot of these cocktail books for Christmas and stuff. So I've actually looked through multiple of them to see what recipes they have. Some of them call for like 1 3/4 ounces of whiskey. Some call for two. I like to go with three because I'm an adult.
Mm.
And for those of you doing dry January, you're really missing out. I don't do that. I'm an adult. I can control my drinking, so I do. And I went from the 115 down to this bottle of Weller because this is also a wheated bourbon, unlike um, Old Forester, so it just has a higher wheat content when you're looking at the mash bill. So a little bit softer flavors. It goes great in an old fashioned, and I didn't have my first wheated old fashioned until yesterday, and it was so damn good that I chose this to make on the podcast.
I'll have to send you a couple books that I have on the topic of whiskey as well. I was just thinking maybe Woodford Reserve is like the one I would go to probably.
It's Woodford Reserve is a good standard. I like Woodford Reserve. If they don't have some of like a higher end type whiskey at like a restaurant, I will fall back to like a Woodford Reserve or something like that, or an Elijah Craig. It really depends. Um, in the state of Pennsylvania, this is an allocated bottle, so it's a little bit harder to get in the state of Pennsylvania. Um, you would have to wait like 2 hours in line outside of a liquor store, for this. But for me, since I go to Kentucky and I go to Ohio, like it's really available in Ohio, so I don't worry about the allocation of it. I have 6 bottles of it, I think, at home. I can get it so easily that I gave 2 bottles of it to my brother or to my brothers for Christmas this year. So uh,
Wonderful.
because they can't get it, but yeah,
Well, all right, let's we do have a plan here, but before I do that, we made some lists of things. We just want to talk about the wildfires here because it's kind of like the biggest news of the day. Because it's still going on. Basically, like Pacific Palisades is gone. Like an entire ass part of like Malibu in Southern California, right on the beach, is just gone. Everything burned down, and these fires are still going on. And I think I found the most infuriating parts of the past 2 days to be the evacuation orders, which was like, you evacuate now, and then the people that evacuated to the areas they evacuated to, they said, okay, now you have to evacuate that area, and it caused all these crazy problems. And I just want to say, like, this is what this is liberalism as a result, where it's like you can't blame an earthquake on climate change, or at least normal people wouldn't. But it is they use climate change as an excuse for wildfires, and I'm just seeing like there's no water. We have no water in the state. We allocated money to store water. Don't have it. Never did it. And then Newsom came down here and he's like, I don't know why Trump's being so mean to me. And it's like, buddy, there are like shit's just burning down around him while he's saying this. And um, Karen Bass, the mayor, was in Ghana, and she knew that this was going to happen because we knew about a week ago that there were going to be extremely high winds, and the humidity is like below 10, whatever the number, 10 percent, I don't know what it is. So like the conditions were perfect for this, and I'm just extremely irritated with the whole situation right now. So
sure. So this has been going on a long time. Republicans and conservatives, whatever, will point to the lack of like prescribed burns and just wildfire and forest management that is done in other states to prevent this kind of thing. Um, I've seen videos of Republicans saying this is DEI. It's not really. I mean, whatever. Like they don't have the manpower, regardless. I mean, Adam Carolla did a bit where he was like, I'm going to talk about my white privilege. And he kind of laughed and he said, out of high school, I graduated with like a 1.9 GPA and I went to become a firefighter and they told me I had to wait 7 years. He said, and then when I was in line to take the test, there was a black woman behind me and I asked her, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to take this? And she said, Wednesday. Um, so there could be a DEI element there for sure, whatever. But the fact that California doesn't do the prescribed burns, they, don't do forest management the way that it should be. I've actually long said this when I see these California fires. Not to you, they haven't really happened that much since you and I have met, at least not in the way that this one is occurring.
mhm.
Um, and it's a problem. I mean, they shipped extra firefighting equipment, including fire trucks, to Ukraine to help them fight fires. But now, don't you wish you had that equipment back? Like
Um,
they set up a
yeah.
phone number for retired firefighters to call to basically get conscripted back into um, I don't know what they call them. I guess departments, like the different fire departments to help fight fires. I remember prior, like in other fires, they actually used prisoners from jails. They took them out, paid them $1 a day to fight fires. And it's not like these people aren't in harm's way. Like they could die doing this. So imagine coming out of prison, getting paid $1 to fight a fire, and then you die.
Yeah.
Like,
And
wouldn't you have rather just stayed in prison?
they cut the budgets by $17 million last month, and the fire chief said this is going to directly impact our ability to deal with an emergency, and they did it anyway. And I just want to mention that also today the state legislature is giving the California DOJ $25 million to set up defense funds for whatever reason to counter anything that Trump is going to do when he gets into office.
Of course.
That's where their priorities are. It's
Of
really,
course.
I mean, like when I say like this is this state, we have, they blame climate change because they don't want to blame the Democratic mayor, the Democratic governor, the Democratic senators, the House, which is like the assembly is controlled by the Democrats.
Sure.
And so it's so convenient to go, this is what climate change does.
Well,
Climate
I've seen a
change,
video of Karen Bass. It like they were trying to interview her about the fires, and she just literally stood in silence. She would not answer their questions,
it
but
wasn't
she
like it wasn't like a question. She stood silent for like 2.5 minutes.
right, she would not answer a single question that they had.
When she
Um,
was giving her speech, she said she part of her speech was that there's a website you could go to get valuable life saving information, and she read it and she said URL, and it's like these people are going to get other people killed and like literally, and it's not over yet. It's
well, they already
still like
have. At the toll I've seen is at
yes,
least five.
at
Okay,
least
of course,
five.
it's not a ton, like when we're talking about the population of California, but people have died. Like that, it's not zero. People have died. So
And
this
this
is already an issue. People leaving their animals, like I've seen videos of like a firefighter literally rescued a dog.
mhm,
So if you leave your dog behind, go
fuck
fuck
you.
yourself. There were people that were like getting their horses out of their stables and stuff and like walking them down the street because their shit was burning down. Okay. Like this is a very serious thing. But here, you have California that doesn't learn its lessons because they tried to recall Gavin Newscum and then fucking reelected him, basically. Like, he survived his recall.
Mhm.
Like, why did you recall him in the first place if you were just gonna let him go?
Well, the recall, it's a certain threshold of signatures you have to meet, which I signed up for that. Obviously, I voted to recall him. And yeah, then the voters were like, no, we're going to keep this guy. And I think that this is going to severely limit his ability to be a candidate for president in 2028, which is what he
But that's
always wants.
that's the problem. Like, he's not focused on California.
Not at all.
He's focused on 2028. And before that, he was focused on being Joe Biden. So we all know that he has not really been focused on California for quite some time.
And it's easy to point out this is like the easiest thing to say is like Ron DeSantis somehow gets um the internet, the power on within like 2 days of a hurricane now because they learned their lesson from Hurricane Andrew in the 90s. And you see Governor Shapiro when the 95 that bridge collapsed or whatever, he got that thing back up quick.
72
this is
hours.
this
Yeah.
is not going to happen in California. None of these people, part of that Adam Carolla video I sent you was an important thing to note. Adam Carolla said these people are all deep. This is probably the bluest part of California. These people are going to want to rebuild their homes, and they're going to find a harsh reality that you can't build your home. It's going to take years. And they're not, and you know what? The California Coastal Commission, as he said, they don't want you living there at all. That's why they exist. They would rather you be gone than live there. And so it's just I
Well,
don't know,
we're going to
man.
see a similar situation like we saw in Hawaii, right? Like those people still don't have their homes back, and that was 2 years ago,
They gave them
last year,
$700.
$750. Like
Yeah.
we all know that Hawaii is one of the most expensive states to live in. It's just a fact. And a lot of people that live there can't afford to buy homes. So they live multi generational in their homes and they just continue to pass it down and pass it down and pass it down because nobody can afford to buy land anywhere. But then you have this horrific incident where all these people's houses burn down, and instead the state wants to come in and use that to put up a monument to the people that died in the fire instead of letting people get their fucking homes back. I
Hmm.
wonder if we'll see something different. um James Woods' house burned down
Mm,
again for the
yeah.
second fucking time. I don't He's super conservative, so I don't understand why he doesn't move the fuck out of California,
Because
but
it's beautiful.
sure,
That's
but
why.
like it's beautiful other places too. Move to Montana. Like it's beautiful in Montana. It's just different. It doesn't have a beach. Sure, it's not
Well,
Malibu, but you
before
know,
I want to mention one more thing that I forget, but I don't want to lose track of this thought. Um, the insurance policies in California are so bad that what they did was they capped insurance companies from evaluating, you know, your policy, which is why my home insurance tripled because some companies just said we're just not going to insure houses in California anymore, and they left the state. Well,
sure,
now you've got they reformed it like only recently because of something that was going to happen, which is like a mass disaster, and insurance companies have not been able to. They can't insure something if they're not able to insure it for what it's worth or what
right.
it could, and so yeah, all of these people are really wealthy, and so I don't know how it's going to impact them.
But
But
they just passed that law too, like
they just
to
did.
try and fix the insurance. So I guarantee you, it actually hasn't even taken effect, or they haven't had. There's probably some grace period built in. I didn't read it, but I can virtually guarantee you that there's some kind of grace period to build in for that, and this won't account for any of that. So the people who have lost their homes are probably fucked.
Well,
They're
one of
not
the
going to
guys,
get covered.
they're probably fucked, and these aren't. I don't know if these are all just like extremely wealthy people. One of the guys who died, his daughter was on the news just talking about an hour ago, and said that he bought that house in 1968, and he worked for Lockheed Martin, and he retired there. So like he was not a wealthy person. He was just that's just where his house was, and he's dead now, and so like that tells me that there's people in that neighborhood who were not millionaires and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, so my wife's cousin had to evacuate. He lives in LA, and he had to evacuate. He, I believe, lives in an apartment. He doesn't even own a home. But you know, think about the apartment complexes too. Like, it's not just people's homes burning, and because there's what, four known different wildfires now,
5.
and are they still 0% contained the way that
I
it was yesterday?
I think one of them is 10% contained, and that was the one that started, the first one that started. So yeah, they're not contained, and the problem is that the ember can travel like over a mile, and so the winds were the issue because the winds blow the embers, and that's what all it has to do is land on your roof, and a new fire can start.
Oh yeah.
And so and everything's just so dry that that's just gonna happen, and it's not, it's a roulette thing, right? It's like your one house can be completely fine, and the entire rest of the neighborhood can be completely wiped out. And it goes back to the prescribed burns you talked about with like the Sierra Club saying like we do not want that to happen, do not burn don't do that. And yeah, they stopped all the prescribed burns this year, and or last year. And god, it's just like up and down, there's so many bad ideas there, and then this is the result. And I don't know if people are gonna change the way they vote, but you get what you fucking
But see,
deserve.
that's where I don't understand it, right? So like why people are hardcore Democrats. Like look at California, look at a lot of the issues they had there. Like they had to pass a law to enforce the other laws about stealing. Like
Mm-hmm.
they obviously like the wildfire thing, like always a drought. They decided that, oh, well, you're not allowed to have a gas powered car after 2030, and they had to move that because their infrastructure can't handle electric cars. Um, but then move on to like other big cities that are Democrat run, where like Chicago is hardcore Democrat and it's one of the most violent cities in the entire country. Like, we see this on a consistent basis where these large cities that are hardcore Democrat run have some of the biggest problems. And like those people still don't get voted out.
Yeah, I mean Rick Caruso, who was the guy, he's a developer in Los Angeles, almost won the mayorship, and he was on there talking to these reporters, and it's limousine liberalism run wild. He was like, "Dude, they ran out of water," and then the reporter was like, "No, they didn't." And then the woman who was on the ground talking to firefighters said, "Yeah, they did. They ran out of water. We had like record rainfall in Los Angeles or record snowpack or whatever, not 12 months ago. This is the rainy season
Right.
for us."
That was like the big thing, and I heard that too. It was like, it hasn't rained in a couple of months. Right, but you had the the worst year on record for California in a long time with the rain. Remember, it was raining so much that they were worried
Mm-hmm.
about like mudslides and shit. And
You know where that water went?
now apparently it didn't rain.
You know where that water went. They sent it all into the ocean because you have to do something with the water, but they don't store the water. And that's the thing is we have allocated money to build like reservoirs and shit. I mean, these people are on the fucking ocean. You want water? Ran out of water and you're next to the ocean, dude. What?
Throw a pump in there, like
I don't
you'll
know
be
how.
fine.
I'm not the governor. I'm not the one who runs all the shit. I'm just a citizen, and I'm wondering why. Why did? Why that? How come you can't get salt water and like store it in containers? I don't know. Maybe you can't do that. I don't know. But yeah, this is an ongoing story. I'll probably bring it up in a couple weeks because it's not going away. Actually, it's going to be really bad because all the retaining walls burn down and it will eventually rain again. And when that happens, it's just going to create all those
Flood.
mudslides. Yeah. Like this
Well,
problem isn't going away.
you get what you overpaid for, in my opinion.
Well, you know,
Thank you,
anyway,
California.
I think we had to talk about it because it's important. And uh, Jimmy Carter was a bad president and he's dead now. And so I don't find that to be like the news of the day for me.
There's two states and one city that make me happy that I live in Pennsylvania. It's California, New Jersey, and New York City.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at New York City and like that's a whole other like, man, you don't stand near that subway platform or you're gonna get burned
No,
alive and
I mean,
pushed in.
see, this is the problem with like doing the thing that we're trying to do on the podcast today, which is quickly getting away from us, right? Like New York giving you during peak hours $9 tolls, fees, whatever, to for as congestion pricing to get past like 60th Street in Manhattan. And it's going to cost businesses so much money because what they're trying to do is force people onto the subways, which have been proven historically unsafe for people.
Right
Obviously, like
now.
looking back down towards what Daniel Penny and like that situation, and the girl that just got set on fire, the guy that got stabbed. They just caught a guy who serially stabbed like 87 people or something like that in New York. Um, on the trains, and he had like this big fucking knife like this, and so you're actively trying to push people down into the subway. But from what I understand, they also increase the prices in the
Mm.
subway.
But
So
nobody
like
pays the reason why people jump the turnstiles, so they don't even pay for it. Like that's the
some,
thing.
some, but there are people that do pay for it.
Yeah, because they're trying to follow the rules of a society. and
Correct.
and then you got all these nurses who don't live in Manhattan and they're the ones who have to pay the congestion pricing. So what are they going to do? They're going to
I,
leave.
I think the number one thing that people forget, right? Like we're talking about making laws everywhere.
Hmm.
Okay.
Always laws, laws, laws.
Criminals don't fucking care about the law. That's why they are criminals.
Hmm.
Point blank. So it's the same thing when it comes to gun control, whatever else, right? They don't follow the fucking law. That is why you have bad guns on the streets. It's not law-abiding citizens typically that are doing this, right? Like it's people with illegal guns. And the people that do have legal guns, I mean, small percentage,
Mm-hmm.
but
And you and I just sit here and we question, how people could be so crazy. Like the congestion pricing thing, people were celebrating that. Like they're like, we finally got
some,
congestion pricing.
some. But
It's like what?
dude, there was a large contingent of people who are pushing back against it. So they implemented it, but there are several groups that are actually currently suing the city of New York because of the congestion pricing, and that they want that removed completely because it's going to cause like undue burden on businesses and everything else. Like if you didn't shut enough businesses down in New York for COVID, now you're going to definitely shut them down because people aren't going to come into the fucking city.
That makes me think that Los Angeles is going to lose even more population, and the people that stay there, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's affecting everything. These fucking fires are I mean, they postpone that hockey game. What does that
Right,
hockey game do? It brings in revenue, brings in
right.
people. I'm going
Well,
to a hockey game in a couple weeks there,
U-Haul released their numbers for 2024, I think it
and once
was.
again,
And once again, the top 5 states people were leaving were blue, and the top 5 states people were moving to were red.
yeah. I
So
mean, I would rather deal with a hurricane or 3 hurricanes every year and have like lower taxes than to pay as much as we do here and just see this happen. I
like
mean, this,
my grandparents live on the coast of southern Florida, pretty much, okay? Like Naples, Florida. They live right there, okay? And there's been some huge hurricanes that have come there. They've evacuated. Sometimes they haven't evacuated to the dismay of a lot of my family, but they have largely avoided a lot of damage. Now, they have a friend of theirs who had a house that was completely wiped out. Um, but I believe the insurance there is okay for the most part.
it's
But
going up.
yeah, but they have avoided that for the most part. Like a hurricane is, I think, a little bit easier to survive than your fucking house burning down.
Yeah, and then it's just gone. I mean, it's gonna take years. I don't know, man. I don't want to stay on this topic anymore. I just, we'll probably talk about it again in a couple weeks because it'll rain eventually. It'll rain eventually, and that's what happens when it rains in this state. Is it brings it growth. Everything grows, and then it dries out, and then it fucking burns, and it's just an endless cycle that I don't know, man. I live in I live in a high fire danger zone, you know, like it happens. So,
It does.
okay, so we're gonna do our movie episode next time, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I wanted to do something a little different. We didn't do this in the past couple years, but maybe um you want to move into some of our top lists. I wanted to do the top 5 news stories that you thought of for 2024, and let's move to that.
Okay. All right.
Start from
So
the bottom up first.
I have a list here, but I really struggled to just pick 5. We
Okay, fair
had
enough.
we had a lot of big news, but I know well, obviously we spent 30 some minutes talking about other stuff, so this makes it a little bit um, difficult. So I'm going to say number 5: Israel blows up terrorists using pagers.
That's my number 5 as well.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome news story. Fantastic to see what Israel was capable of
decades in the
in
making.
blowing up some terrorists. Like, kudos to you. That's some shit the CIA definitely couldn't pull off. Bravo.
Yeah. I just it was not only did it work so effectively, but like they tested the pager attack. I listened to a podcast about it recently, and they made sure that there was enough explosive that it would only damage the person holding the pager, but it would limit like collateral, and so yeah, some other people died because of it. But like, if you're within 3 feet of a terrorist who has a pager, you run that risk. So
Don't hang
incredibly,
out with terrorists. I mean, I don't know
yeah.
what to tell you.
I mean, it's probably it's one of the most effective things ever done, if you think about it. I mean, it's so tiny and minuscule and targeted.
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
Perfect. Chef's kiss. Hats off to Mossad. Um,
We are
we all
we are
know that's who pulled that
simpatico on
off.
that one. Yep.
Number 4 for me, I'm gonna go with United Healthcare CEO getting shot.
Interesting choice. That one
Yeah,
didn't occur to me.
big story there. It caused a lot of divisiveness, even within government itself, where people like Elizabeth Warren weren't poo-pooing it and saying like you shouldn't be out there shooting CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of like glossed over it. So we kind of see that a lot there. It's also still relatively an ongoing story. As they caught the guy, but obviously he was fighting his extradition to a different state and all this other stuff. So ongoing story going into 2025 here. But I thought it was definitely interesting and worth a shout out.
And I think it's worth mentioning too that CEO worked his way from the bottom up.
Yes.
He was not gifted the CEO position, and
How
that's
often do you see somebody get assassinated on camera like that?
it. The
That
footage is
in
crazy.
America,
Yeah.
we see it from foreign states all the time. Like obviously with the stuff you and I look into, whatever. But this was on American soil, very different, very I guess jarring for some people and not jarring for others. Um, Worth mentioning. What was your number 4?
Biden dropping out of the race.
Yes.
That was maybe it's on your list higher. I think it was a big deal because it's never really happened before, and it seemed obvious to you and I because we followed him for years. We knew he was like a bumbling idiot, but then that debate kind of
Sealed the deal.
sealed the deal. So that's my number 4.
So my number 3 was going to be what I called Biden brain melts during debate, which led to yours. Um,
Yes.
and I also called it deep state cover up because
Yeah.
essentially everybody in the Democratic Party knew for sure that he was diminished. He still is diminished today. Nobody really knows who the fucking president is at this point. Republicans have called it out repeatedly. So that was going to be my number 3. Obviously we saw a little soft coup from Nancy Pelosi getting Biden to drop out, which led to obviously your number 4. So I'm going to skip that as my number 3, but I think it was worth mentioning. I think I'm going to go with the overthrow of Assad in Syria.
Oh, okay. Yeah, again,
Number
an
3.
ongoing story. Yeah, that one will be years in the making. We're gonna have that going in our lives for a long time.
Well, of course, because we were told that they're going to have democratic elections to pick the
Mm.
next leader of Syria, but now we're being told that it's going to take at least 4 years for that to happen. And the current leader is a former Al Qaeda member. So he's a terrorist. I believe he was on the terrorist watch list. And he is now, you're subbing out basically one terrorist for another.
He's the de
And he
facto
just,
leader.
right, he just happens to claim they're going to have elections. So did Zelensky, but then they, fucking canceled those. So as we all know, yes, that was a big issue. So for me, number 3, Assad overthrown.
All right. My number 3 is the Trump assassination. That bullet, him turning his head, could have changed the entire trajectory of our country and the world.
And let's say
Whether
it's
you,
twice. Remember,
yeah,
Trump
twice.
assassination twice.
No,
They tried to get him
3.
2 times.
3. There was a guy in Coachella in California who tried to get him too, as well as the golf course, and then
Right.
the guy running for president got shot in the head.
And
It's
he just
crazy.
keeps on winning.
Okay, so can we talk about my number two then? I'll just go right into it.
Yeah, go to your
My
number
number
two.
two is him winning.
Fair. I definitely think that was going to be probably my number two as well. Um, I would have to agree with it
I can't
because,
believe he won. I really, because it wasn't just that he won; it was that he won the Electoral College, a popular vote. Like,
which a Republican hasn't done in like 50 years or something like that.
it's like
He's
88 or
also only
something.
the second president ever to have non-consecutive terms.
Grover
So,
Cleveland being the other one.
right. So
Um,
historically,
it's
accurate.
unprecedented,
Yes.
and also it is funny today to see everybody glad-handing with Hitler at Jimmy Carter's funeral. They made him seem like he was the next Hitler. Um, it didn't work, and it was decisive. It was just, I don't know, man. The guy did it somehow
Yeah. So
after being almost assassinated.
right. I mean, and I honestly do believe that those assassination attempts directly led to more people voting for him.
As well as the lawfare, because
Yeah.
really the documents case was like that one was solid, the other ones were not, and it actually probably helped him because we had
Well,
the mug shot.
I would have to argue with you that the documents case was not solid, given that the report on the documents case for Joe Biden, because we're
No,
talking, yeah, we're talking secret documents, right? Or
yeah,
uh,
I'm saying that they're
classified
both
documents.
bad. I'm saying
Oh,
that's
okay.
both bad. Yeah,
Okay. Though I'm sorry, the way you phrased it made it seem like that was a solid case.
it was. I think it's like, well, against both of them, it's solid. I think
But you
Mike
can't
Pence had them.
you right, but you can't sit here and say that Donald Trump deserves to be prosecuted for it, which Merrick Garland is still going to attempt to prosecute him for. When the report came out that basically they wouldn't prosecute Joe Biden for the same exact thing because he's too old and feeble.
Right,
So,
which by the way, Robert Hur got a lot of shit for, and
correct.
yeah, all of it was just like you said. There was like this deep state attempt to get the guy so that he would never be president again, and all of it was for nothing because nobody really gives a shit anymore, and they're just glad handing with Hitler.
Right.
Hitler got invited to the White House, so
I mean, Obama was sitting next to Hitler at Jimmy Carter's funeral and
they were
laughing about it.
laughing.
They were
Yeah,
having a good
they
old
were
time.
they literally were lip reading them, saying like Trump was like, "Oh, we could talk about that somewhere else," with something Obama was mentioning. Like, all right,
So I will put in for my number two, and I like doing it this way because this way we don't have the same exact list. We can kind of talk about a lot of the top stories, but
good call.
we are simpatico pretty much
Hmm.
on a lot of this, right? Number two for me, super democracy, South Korea. President declares martial law and gets ousted.
Yeah, that one was fun. Because that is ongoing. He refuses to be arrested, and we really don't know what happened there still. But it's one of those like it was the worst case of all the democracies falling that we were mentioning. Like prime ministers
Mhm.
resigning and stuff. But for him, it was just like, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, the reason I reference it as super democracy is we all know that the neighbor to the north of Korea, aka Best Korea, as some people might call it, um, obviously is not a democracy. It's an autocracy or whatever have you. And you expect something like this from North Korea, obviously, because they're autocratic and authoritarian in nature. Um, but you don't expect that from South Korea, right? It was supposed to be the most democratic nation of all of the Koreas, I guess, which there's only two. Uh, but he just declared martial law and then tried to be like, sorry, I didn't mean that. Meanwhile, their government basically said, you're out. And they want to arrest him, but the military will not let him be taken into custody. And that's
It's
where
really
we
weird.
currently stand.
Yeah, it's real weird. Okay, my number one story is optimistic, incredibly optimistic, actually. And it was the SpaceX rocket being captured by the arms. That
Fair.
that imagery, that possibilities there, what that means for like our future is just it's so unbelievable. It really is. Like this giant rocket is coming out from the sky and it comes down and it just the little things catch it and it's like that was stuff that like authors in the 50s were saying like, this is science fiction and it's real and it's I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
Yes, Elon Musk continues to do Elon Musk things,
Yes.
and wow, everybody.
And I think that just like that's like the coolest, best, brightest possibility for the future of America that we could reuse rockets, we could catch them, we could get, people into space now and yeah.
I would like to go before I announce my number one, because what I have as number one was definitely not on your list, but I would like to go over some
Oh,
of the other stories that aren't going to make either of our top fives, but I think are interesting.
please do.
Hurricane Helene obviously
Oh,
was a
yeah.
huge story for multiple states. Got torn through, and entire towns were demolished because of it. And obviously, the government hasn't really been helpful.
And
Um,
FEMA also just saying like don't go to
yep,
Trump houses. And by the way, our media is down here in Southern California immediately. There was no media coverage there. Nobody went there.
of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. Uh, Diddy caught diddlin' is what I
Yeah.
call it. Just kind of like a big pop culture story. Um, there's a lot to it, a la like the Alex Jones route, where it's basically a whole ring of like sex trafficking with a lot of other superstars. But Diddy's the one that they're trying to pin it all on.
Southern California, man. It's just a poison pill of shit.
You know it. Um, CrowdStrike destroys pretty much everybody um, by like putting out an update. A lot of airlines went down that day,
Mm-hmm.
and were down for 12 plus hours, I believe, while they tried to fix whatever update that they did. This one affects you and I personally, but did not affect us at the time. Was massive IT layoffs. This was like one of the first times we've seen massive layoffs for the IT people, which
Mm.
now we're starting to see in 2025. IT jobs are set
Yep.
to skyrocket again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I said the Boeing downfall. Obviously, there was a lot of issues with planes in the last year, with the Alaska door blowing off because somebody forgot to put a screw in. Um, you know, Engines catching fire midair, blah blah blah,
I mean,
all of
even
that
recently,
shit.
a plane just plowed into a brick wall because it couldn't brake or something, and there was like a bird strike, like all kinds of bad airline shit.
Yeah, and the government has still done nothing about it. Thank you for having government contracts so the government won't do anything to you. Container ship destroys bridge in Maryland. Uh,
Yeah.
that was a big deal. I think it cost like $1 billion or something like that to rebuild the bridge. It actually did kill, I believe, 6 people, something along those lines. And they are still dealing with that fallout. I don't believe they even moved the ship yet. It's still there in the harbor.
Yeah, those metal containers are at the bottom of the water. That seems hard to deal with.
Yes.
I know it's not on your list. I don't. Or it's probably on your list, but I do want to mention it as well because it was one of my favorite stories. I hate stories actually. Was that Gaza Pier? Fuck that
Mm,
Gaza Pier,
yes.
and that thing just blew off into the ocean and it never worked. And it's like it was just a boondoggle.
I didn't include that on my list for sure. Not even in my honorable mentions,
Cool.
although, obviously we hate it. But now for my number one story, and I can't believe this wasn't on your list because it's so hilarious. Iran's president getting killed in a helicopter crash.
Oh yeah. God,
So you
that
just forgot that happened.
too much
With
news.
all of this shit going on with Iran and Israel and the back and forth and them getting money from the Biden administration and then basically turning around and using it for terrorism and all this other stuff, the president died in a helicopter crash.
Yeah,
And that was a big deal
and we never got
because,
it. We never found out
right,
why.
because imagine the path that Iran would be on today if he was still alive.
Yeah, you know what? You're right, and you're right to include a lot of those Middle East stories. I guess in my mind, I can put them all in one bucket because the entire region was like Iran is like has all these proxies, and now every proxy's gone. The Houthis are next, and it's just a whole different world now.
Yeah,
And you're
I
right. Without him dying, who knows what would have happened?
I agree.
Yeah, and yeah, I killing that guy in Tehran, Hanani or whatever, that was a huge deal. Jimmy Carter has a photograph of him shaking hands with Hanania or whatever that guy's name was. Like,
Had
yes, both of them in
had a
hell together.
photograph.
That's awesome, dude. I'm glad we had all these great stories. That's why I didn't want to end negative because I'm looking to the future, man.
Where everything's going to be more negative.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the space exploration age that we're entering into silently.
All right, so do we want to end on best shows of the year or worst movies of the year? Or we
Well,
can
I
do
do want to.
both. We can do both.
We
But
could do
okay, which
both. I'm going to do my video games really quick
okay.
because it's just that's my thing.
Yeah, you know I
Um,
don't play nearly as many video games, so this is a
Nobody does. Yeah,
solo piece for you.
yeah, it's a huge problem. I'm not proud of it. My number six game of the year is Satisfactory, the building conveyor belt game that you made fun of me for playing. I just loved it. Number five is Prince of Persia. It was a really awesome platformer that didn't sell well, and they shut that studio down. Number four, Balatro is a poker game, but like it flips the entire concept of poker on its head. It's a fascinating, weird thing made by one guy, and it's amazing. Number three, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It's just a fucking awesome game. I
I
can't
actually
believe
thought
they.
that would have been your game of the year, to be honest. So I'm actually
Yeah,
interested to see what your game of the year is going to be.
yeah. So my number two is Unicorn Overlord. This is weeb shit, but it's a really cool game with a really neat art style, and the combat is really cool because you move your units around and they're parties. But then when you get into the actual fighting, it does it for you. Like you don't control the actual combat, and so you're managing like where you are on the map, and it's just a really interesting concept. And I had a fucking blast with it. And my number one game of the year is Astrobot on the PlayStation 5. I just have never had that Nintendo magical experience in any other Nintendo, like non-Nintendo game, and it's just this like hugely fun, super beautiful love letter to like PlayStation lore, PlayStation history, and it's just a great fucking game. Great music, loved it.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I actually can't believe that the Indiana Jones game wasn't at the top of your list because you talked about that game for days on end.
Yeah, I continue to want to go back and 100% it. I don't know if I will, but yeah, just the fact that they captured the essence of Indiana Jones and they didn't make like a Tomb Raider game. It's just an Indiana Jones game. And that is such a hard feat to pull off, and they just crushed it. It's amazing.
Nice.
But it's no Astrobot.
Oh, bravo.
All right, let's do our shows.
Okay.
Because bad movie wise, I just have a list. I didn't order them. I just a list of dog shit.
Yeah, so I will say I struggled a little bit with the shows um here because I didn't watch too many shows. Um so what I have to go off of
How many
is
do you have?
3.
Okay, I have five.
So I have From season 3.
Okay.
That's on MGM Plus. It's a horror-based show. I will say that I feel like it's running its course. Like it's kind of
Hmm.
getting to the point where you're like, okay, I kind of understand what's happening here now. It's taken them to this point to actually, through 3 seasons, to get some kind of answers on what's happening in this town that they're in. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Mm-mm.
Um, so essentially, these people are in this town. They cannot leave it. And there's these monsters that come out at night and will kill them pretty brutally. And that's actually what some of the cool stuff is. Um, actually, you know what? I will have 4. Um, and I think it's pretty interesting to see. There's some decent acting in there. I actually recognize some of the actors in the show. But MGM Plus, which not everyone has,
I
I
didn't
have
even
it
know it was a
pretty
thing.
much just to watch this show. Enjoyable. I highly recommend it. But I can see that where it's starting to fall off.
Okay.
So we'll call that 4.
Okay. Well, let me do 5. My number 5 was Shogun. It was a good show. I enjoyed watching it. It was unique. I. It's a beautiful show. It's high production. Just a cool show. Crazy. There's some weird, crazy scenes in there of like horses getting blown up and stuff. Like there's some wild shit in it.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Um, my number 4 is Say Nothing. I've already talked about that on here before. It's about the um, IRA, the Irish Republic Army, murdering people, and it's based on a book. I liked it.
Nice.
You want to do number 3?
No, you do your number 3.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna share some, I'm sure. House of
I doubt it.
Dragon season 2.
See, I
I
forgot that was
love
even this year.
I love House of Dragon, and I love that season. I know a lot of people didn't. I just liked all them leaning hard into the dragon shit. Like it's a show about dragons, and I'm fucking here for it.
Yeah, that'll be my number 3 then as well. My number 4 then, I would say, would be Teacup. Um,
Didn't
it's
watch that.
another horror-based show, but I must say it would have worked better as a limited series than continuing on the story, because you're already at a point where you're like, I get it, move the fuck on. It's basically these people are on a farm. A lot of shit happens, but they can't go past this like line
Mm,
that somebody draws, and or else you die this like horrific death. And you got to see some like cool stuff from that, and it was good up until the last like couple episodes when they start to the big reveal kind of happens, and you're like, oh, okay, like I don't need another season of this. The first season, good enough, be done with it, but whatever. And then I'll go with definitely. I literally forgot that House of the Dragon was in this year.
yeah,
I did. So people have to understand there's so much content that comes out, and you and I consume so much content. It's almost impossible to remember all of it.
it is. Yeah, but I
My thing is I don't watch as many shows as I watch movies.
same. Yeah,
I'm trying. There's a couple, like one of the ones that just came out was The Rig season 2. Season 1, awesome. Season 2 sucks. So, and it actually has a lot of people from the original Game of Thrones in it.
I knew that. Yeah.
But it's very climate changey, like woke kind of deal, and it doesn't appear that way in most of the first season until like the very end, and then the second season just like corporate cover up, woke,
Mm.
like climate changey thing, like so I'm kind of out. I'm out
So
of it.
my number 2 show is anti-climate change, and that's Landman. I love Landman. It's not done yet, I don't think, but we're almost to the
Fuck,
end.
I forgot about that one too. See, that was the problem. It's not done yet, so I didn't want to put it on this list.
Landman's my number 2 show of the year. I love that fucking show. I love the writing. It's funny. It's like
That might be my actual number 1 show of the year.
well.
It
See,
was
that's what I
so
thought it was
good.
gonna be. Was your number 1?
Billy Bob Thornton is amazing in that. His delivery on everything is just unbelievable.
Yeah. That everything about that cast. I love all the characters. I love that he's like, all right, son, you're gonna make a real bad decision here. Are you ready to? Like, he's very pragmatic in that way, and his ex-wife being just like completely nuts, and the shit in the old folks' home, and then just really also just like the Billy Bob Thornton delivering that speech about how plastic and oil is in every fucking thing, and
Yeah,
you're just too naive to know that, and
it's a
yeah,
beautiful show.
it's
Beautiful
dangerous
show.
for us to pull that fucking oil out of the ground, and until you come up with an alternative, fuck you. I love it.
Right. So I was going with Silo season 2.
You like Silo?
Yeah, this is another one that you haven't really given a chance, I don't think.
I dabbled.
Um, there's a lot of politics going on in it. Um, you kind of get the gist of where they're heading a little bit, but then they take another turn, and you're like, oh, okay, that's not what they were doing. And the second season, while not as politically heavy as the first season, still very good. Um, and they do have a defined finish. So it's been renewed for seasons 3 and 4, and they are done. So they
Cool.
have a defined finish, which I appreciate because you don't end up with Game of Thrones season 8.
Yeah. Okay. My favorite show this year is The Penguin. I I think
Fuck. See, okay, I clearly didn't do enough. I didn't do enough for this. Okay, I didn't.
yeah.
Because
So
that also should have been on my list. I could have knocked off so much shit. Like Teacup, gone. Fuck that show. In
yeah.
comparison to some of the other shit.
So I just want to say that like for me The Penguin, first of all, I hate that Batman movie, so like the fact that they made a TV show about the sub character and like I just it
Who really
subverted
was only in the Batman for
the
15
blip.
total minutes
Yeah.
out of
Um
the 2.5 hour runtime.
right. And Colin Farrell is so goddamn good as that character and he
Fuck yes.
you can't see him in that character. And what's her name? She's amazing in that show too.
Kristen Milotti.
Yeah, and just the twist on some of these episodes, particularly the one at the mansion. Like I don't see things coming. So for me, I was like, "Holy shit, this is wild."
And the Easter eggs, as I had actually brought
Pointed
up to
out to me,
you,
yeah,
yeah, a couple of times, are
very
just,
clever.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, they're very clever. I like it. Um, what's really great about that show is that it bridges the gap in time between the end of the first Batman movie and the start of the next Batman movie that unfortunately got pushed to 2027 instead of 2026. So we have to still wait 2 more years for it. Um,
But
but
you're dealing with like, okay, we blew up all the levees, and you're dealing with all the consequences of what the Riddler did, and so you've got the Penguin who's like, he's like out of the game. He's just barely scraping by, and then by the end of that show, he's the Penguin, and that's
yep.
really cool. And I fucking can't stand that movie, so it's just wild to me that it's the same exact like style, cinematography. It's all very similar, but like it's just great, and I just loved it, and I never thought I would like it. So it's
And Colin Farrell was one of the best parts, I will say, of the Batman
I
movie
agree.
because you couldn't tell it was him. His acting is unbelievable because look at the villains he's played, the Penguin, and then what was the one he did for Daredevil? Like
He was
trash.
not Whiplash,
uh,
Bullseye,
yeah,
Bullseye.
Bullseye. Like just stupid. Um, my number one show, but because I really fucked this part of our podcast up and forgot about all
It's
these
okay.
shows,
It's okay.
like again because we consume so much content.
Yeah.
Day of the Jackal.
Okay. Yeah, you talked about this one a lot.
Yes, it was quite good. I love the movie The Jackal, with Bruce Willis, Jack Black, Richard Gere. Like awesome movie from like the I guess late '90s.
Mm.
Um, I think it was like 98, something like that came out. Phenomenal. They did a really good show of it, um, up to, and spoiler alerts, up to and including killing one of the main characters in the show in the first season. They are doing another season, and what I gathered from the first season is the way he dresses at the end of it. He looks similar to the character that Bruce Willis portrayed in the Jackal the movie. So I'm hoping they kind of start to go that route.
And I will be watching this. It ties in perfectly with a book I'm reading right now about the jackals in the 70s, which is a term used for terrorists. So I will. I've never seen the movie The Jackal. I've never seen the show. I'm gonna go and watch all that. So
I want you to watch the movie first
okay.
and then get into the show. The movie, I can't believe you haven't seen it, is just phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. I love that movie. So I want you to watch that first and then go watch the show.
Okay. I will. And I do have one honorable mention It doesn't really belong on my list, but
It probably should have been on mine. Who knows?
yeah, no, trust me, it's not going to be on yours. It wouldn't have been. But Amazon Prime did their coverage of the NHL Stanley Cup run,
Yes.
and I really just not. I mean, I'm a little biased because my team won, but so I know how it ends. But the behind the scenes locker room shit and just like getting with the families and the friendships, and these guys are you know they all come from different countries, so they kind of came here all speaking the same
Right.
language, and so it's cool.
The show I didn't get into for 2024 that I wish I did, that I'm trying to start now, is The Agency. And it's because Michael Fassbender is the main character in it, and it's very like espionage based. It's on Amazon Prime. Well, it's not on Amazon Prime. It's on Paramount Plus. So watch. I just started the first episode. Like I'm not even 20 minutes into the first episode, but it's one that I wish I had watched. But it kind of came on towards the end of the year, where I'm trying to cram in as much content as I can.
I mean,
So it just
the amount
didn't
of
make the
movies I've
cut.
watched over the past, yeah, and also Slow Horses season 4 on Apple TV was good. Not a top 5, but
Right.
a worthwhile show. And then I'm really looking forward to Severance, which starts this
Same.
month. Yeah.
Same.
Okay. I'm gonna go use the restroom really quick. Do you need a break at all?
No.
Okay. Will you pontificate on why Terrifier 3 should not be on my worst list? Because tell the audience while I go step away.
I personally believe that Terrifier 3 should be in a top 10 list for sure, top 15, because the effects are really good. I don't understand Aaron's issues with Terrifier 3, because I think he's looking for something about that movie that just isn't relevant for that type of movie. Like, if you're going to see the Terrifier 3, okay, you've logically probably watched Terrifier 1 and 2, and you understand the kind of movie that you're getting. It's gory for the sake of being gory, and you're not focusing strictly on story. Like, obviously the story is not going to be that great in Terrifier 3. Like, he's dressed as fucking Santa Claus, for fuck's sake, which makes it a Christmas movie. So by all means, watch it for the Christmas aspect of things. But your absolute hatred of Terrifier 3 is just beyond me, because I just don't think you get it.
All right.
But
Well,
you're also not a horror aficionado like me. But that's why I think our lists are so interesting, because I am such a horror aficionado. So of course I might like put something up on a pedestal into the top 15 that you might not necessarily agree with, because it's my kind of movie.
Terrifier 3 is a bad movie. All right.
You're an idiot.
So I've got just a list of
If it's on
absolute.
your worst fucking movies list, I'm gonna drive out there because I don't
It's
fly,
not.
and I'm
It's
gonna
not.
spit in your face.
It's not. No, there are way worse movies than that. I've got about 10. I'm just gonna throw them out there. You can ask me about them if you want. We go back and forth. The worst movie I saw all year was Megalopolis. I went to the theater to see it. I was excited. It's a baffling piece of horse shit. It's so far up its own ass. Um, I can't believe how bad
I
that movie was.
I didn't get to see it.
Good.
Number one worst
Nobody saw it.
movie on my list for this year, because it's the only movie I watched this year where I absolutely fucking turned it off. Joker, Folie à Deux.
Oh,
I
ooh.
turned it the fuck off.
So I didn't even bother because I just knew I'd hate it.
I had
So
to. I
so
had to. I had to see what fucking train wreck we were getting into, and I
mhm.
just couldn't even bother.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
Wow.
It was that bad.
Okay. The rest of these are not really in order. I didn't order them because they're just all shit. I hate them all. My next one is Small Things Like These with Cillian Murphy. Uh, it's a movie where literally nothing happens for like 2 hours. It's just Cillian Murphy looking somber and potentially doing some weird things that are, I don't know, unusual. Like there's things going on with this church, but like it's never interesting. And it's just Cillian Murphy delivering coal to this nunnery, and it's awful. It's one of the most boring movies I've ever seen, if I'm honest.
Nice. He does some weird stuff. He does some weird stuff. I didn't get to watch that one, but I get it. I'm going with I Saw the TV Glow.
Thank you.
We got
Absolutely.
hated on a lot
I
online for
I
you
want to
and I
say,
hating
yeah,
this movie because
I get
it's
what
a
it's about.
trans movie,
I,
whatever. I get it.
it
It
wasn't
just
lost on
wasn't
me.
good.
It wasn't lost on me that there was a message there. I got the message. I totally
It was
did.
boring.
It was
It was just
awful.
boring. The acting was terrible. It just was not a good movie. I don't care about your messaging. It has to still be a good fucking movie.
Yeah, I'm
Like, you
not
can't sit here
stupid.
and be
I
like, it's a
understood
good
what
movie because of the messaging. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
Like
like
sometimes I just want to watch a fucking movie for the enjoyment. And this one I did not enjoy.
it wasn't, had nothing to do with the message in the movie, and it was not lost on me. It was actually very plainly obvious. They did not like, they wasn't subtle. It's just
0
a
out of
bad
10 would
movie.
recommend.
Shit movie. Thank you so much. Fuck off.
What's your next?
Blink Twice with what's his face? This movie was just stupid. Just he gets a bunch of Channing Tatum brings a bunch of people to this island, and it's supposed to be like a Diddy island, and apparently the writing was like that's what the story's about. They just drug girls on this island and then have sex
Right.
with them,
Get
and
it.
yeah,
I'm going to go with Tarot.
never even
Just what
heard
a
of that.
shitty fucking film. It's a horror movie about the curse of using somebody else's tarot cards. And so this girl does these readings with these cursed cards, and all the people that she does the readings for end up dying off of the main card that gets drawn for them. It was trash. Unfortunately, I own the movie. I don't know,
I
but
own
like,
Blink Twice. Like I
yeah,
bought some of
it's
these
like
movies.
that's sometimes you just buy a movie because it's there, and it's just
It,
the worst way to go about things. But trash.
I mean, I'm gonna rent it to watch it anyway. I might as well just buy it. Next on my list, this one might be on yours too. I don't know. You might have liked it. I think Speak No Evil was like 25% of that movie is really great, and then the rest of it is like really bad.
You know what? Not on my list, but should be.
Yeah.
Should be. It was not good. I like James McAvoy for the most part. I think he plays that role well. I don't think he was necessarily the problem. I think the problem is the movie as a whole just doesn't really work. It's a remake of a 2022 movie, I believe, that's like
Yes.
a UK based movie that supposedly has like a better ending, is a little more disgusting and stuff, and actually just works overall as a film better. But also like the main good guy, he's trash. He's not really a good actor. He's mostly like a character actor. Overall, don't recommend that movie.
Yeah, I just didn't like it.
My next one, you might have forgot about this. Roadhouse.
Oh, totally forgot about it. I
Yeah,
never watched it. I never watched it.
it was trash. Conor McGregor can't act. We all know that. Okay, he's an MMA fighter. Jake Gyllenhaal, who I believe is actually a phenomenal actor,
Sure.
just should not have done this fucking movie.
Oh, you know what? I completely forgot about the that show he was on. I really liked it.
Oh fuck. Yeah, see?
Yeah.
We forget about content.
It's impossible. I mean, the
And
movies.
that was a great show.
It was, yeah.
A great show. Probably should have been in the top 5.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning just because, like, the movies thing, I got it all locked down. I've got a letterbox. I have everything I've watched, but they don't have that for shows.
Well, and I list out, like, I make a physical list. Well, not physical. It's on my phone.
Yeah, I know how
a
you
list
do it.
of all the movies that come out. So, like, I track them. I don't do that for TV shows.
I don't either.
So maybe I should.
Yeah, God, I can't even remember the name of that show now. It's like The Something.
Yeah, but Roadhouse,
Dog
horrible.
shit.
Horrible.
Cool. Awesome. We wasted a lot of time this year. My next one, you're gonna totally disagree with me on this one, but I think you're just flat out wrong. I thought Oddity was garbage.
Mm.
Nothing happens in that movie, by the way. Like nothing.
Till the end, basically. I disagree. I actually think it was not one of the worst movies of the year, but pretty. It was okay. It was okay.
I put it on my
Let's put it
list.
this way:
I
it's
hated
not
it.
a Shudder film, and Shudder is known typically for releasing a lot of garbage. But Shudder has actually stepped up its game and released movies this year like Arcadian, which was phenomenal in my opinion. Might make the top 15.
Mhm.
Maybe you'll find out. But yeah, I get it. I get it.
Um,
I can see it. I don't
it,
agree, but I can see it.
the whole giant brown swamp thing guy. It was just really.
Well, it didn't do anything till the very end.
I
It
just
was
ugh,
it didn't do anything till the very end.
didn't work for me.
Mm-mm. Agreed. All right. So again, we aren't ordering these,
No,
by the way.
Megalopolis is number one, but I digress.
I'm gonna go with The Watchers.
I don't know if I
Spoiler alert:
remember this.
it's fairies. It is M. Night Shyamalan's
Oh, this
daughter, I
one.
think, making like her directorial debut or something like that. Um, Not good. Dakota Fanning, I believe, is the main character in it. And essentially these people are stuck in these woods and they have to live behind this like screen where they basically stand there and some beings watch them at certain points of the day. Turns out they're fairies. Like,
Lame.
yeah, lame. It was bad.
I watched this movie called Brothers on Amazon Prime. I usually don't watch like Netflix and Amazon exclusive movies for this exact reason. This is the one with Peter Dinklage. I couldn't recite the plot to you. It just was so bad and stupid, and I think I checked out like halfway through.
Never even heard of it.
Yep, garbage.
The last movie I have on my list,
Okay,
and I think you're gonna hate this one,
okay,
that it's on my list.
uh-huh,
I know other people are. I know I'm gonna catch a lot of heat for this.
okay.
Unpopular opinion. Furiosa Mad Max Saga.
No, I don't.
Pure dog shit. Dude, the CGI was some of the
It's
worst
really
I've
bad.
seen. So, in comparison, right? Alien Romulus, $80 million movie. Furiosa, like a $200 million movie. The CGI for Alien Romulus far exceeded anything that Furiosa did.
Godzilla minus one, $15 million. Looks a million times better than Furiosa.
Right. They also went super campy with what's his face?
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth
I
being
like
the
that.
yeah, but like Mad Max had a campiness to it that wasn't that. Like they took it to Army of Darkness levels of campiness for a serious movie, in
I
my
should.
opinion.
Yeah,
Like it's
when we
because
talk
Army of
about it,
Darkness is campy, it's fun, like it's hilarious, right? But it's also still considered like a horror movie. But Furiosa just was not great. I love Anya Taylor-Joy. Like I
yeah, I
love a
did
lot of
too.
the stuff she does. This wasn't it for me. It just felt rushed, forced, unnecessary.
It's first of all, it's way too long. Second of all,
Yeah, it was
my
like three
problem with
hours.
it, yeah, my problem with that movie is that I don't give a shit about Furiosa, and so the fact that you built an entire movie that was like this whole prequel leading right up to the beginning of Mad Max Fury Road, I don't care. I just don't care.
Leave Mad Max to Mad Max.
I want Mad Max,
Yeah.
and you're reusing a lot of the same kind of vehicles, and there's some cool shit that happens with like the action scenes, but like it wasn't as good of an action movie as Fury Road was. That's what's
No,
weird about it.
not even.
It's
It
actually
wasn't
like
even close.
it's a
Fury
digression.
Road is considered probably a top 15 action movie of all time at this point.
Oh, I
Like
love that movie.
everybody loves that movie. It's hard to not. And then to make this prequel for a character which don't care that much about, um, and just again the CGI was really, really poorly, terribly done. Which that's the majority of your film because you're
Mm-hmm.
taking place in the desert and like all sort of stuff. So for you to skimp and make the number one part of your film the worst part of your film, that just makes for a bad movie.
Yeah, that like CGI dust is such a weird thing to pull off. Like it looks so bad in
Mm-hmm.
Furiosa, but it looks so good in Dune 2. And it's just like I don't know, man. Yeah, that movie's got some bad CGI.
I didn't think that
Um,
would be on your worst movies list for sure,
it's
but
not.
it's pretty bad.
It's not because it's
Especially
like
you're talking big blockbuster film, right? Like
okay. Well, I've got big blockbuster films. Don't stop me. You're gonna hate some of these. I think. Okay, are you ready?
I am.
I have like six more. The Fall Guy. I thought it was terrible.
I thought it was funny.
Okay.
I thought it was funny.
This one's only for me. You didn't watch this. Nobody
Stupid, but
did.
funny.
Apartment 7A is a sort of like a prequel slash retelling of Rosemary's Baby, which is like one of my favorite movies ever. And it's just an absolute shit show. It's so bad. Um, anyway, I have Ungentlemanly Warfare on here. I hated this movie.
Interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting. That's interesting.
the story is interesting
I
for
don't
sure.
I don't believe I have it in my top 15, but I don't believe it belongs on the worst movies of the year.
I
Alan
think that
Ritchson in that, hilarious,
he is.
great. I
I'll
love the
grant it
way
all
they
that.
did it. I love the way that they did the storytelling of the movie, and it's a historical film that not a lot of people understand because they just declassified a lot of that information. So it's not very widely known that that is actually at least based off of a true story.
Yes.
It's not a true story in its entirety, but um, I don't know. I think Alan Ritchson at least did enough to make that not one of the worst movies of the year.
Well, I'll give it some credit. Like at the beginning when they're on the boat, that scene is awesome. But for me,
Yeah.
that's the peak of the movie. For me, it just goes downhill from there.
And I do love myself some Henry Cavill. I'm not going to lie.
He's great.
I think he's underutilized in Hollywood.
Um, okay, I've got Godzilla X Kong
Poop.
under
Yeah.
just a stupid fucking waste of my time. I
That
love
was a poop
Godzilla.
movie.
Yeah,
I
movie.
saw it in 3D.
Yeah, that movie sucks ass,
It was the
dude.
first movie I saw last year, I think.
The fucking monkeys and the metal
Yeah,
arm and all that
bad.
horse shit.
Just bad.
Yeah. And my last one is probably going to be a surprise to you. I don't know. I did not like Abigail whatsoever. I thought it was a bad movie. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I tried to limit my worst movies. Like, I didn't want to do like a top 10 of worst movies. You know what I mean? Like,
these are just the ones that I marked as like bottom of the barrel. So like I didn't include like any 3 stars. Like these are all just like my 1 star ish
yeah.
movies.
And movies that some other people really enjoyed. Like, a lot of people really liked Abigail.
I
I'm
know.
not one of them. I'm actually very much in agreement with you about it. I didn't believe that it belonged on worst movies of the year, but I definitely wouldn't have put it in a top movies of the year. Some people might.
I just thought the
It was
pacing
stupid.
was weird and it is stupid and the concept is dumb and like getting locked in this house and good luck and the little girl like it was all just and the ending too like that whole end area like with Dan Stevens or whatever that was like didn't like it.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're coming up at the end here. I must say, this year looks pretty good. January itself looks pretty good for some movies. For me, The Damned actually looks pretty good. Everyone's saying it's very scary. It's already out. I haven't gotten to see it yet. I kind of wanted to go see it. Wolfman comes out this month on the 17th. It's getting pretty glowing reviews already, which I'm not the biggest review guy, but it's positive in my opinion because those kinds of movies don't typically get good reviews. So I'm happy with that. January has just some fire stuff coming out this month. And I mean, we're close to halfway through the month, I think. And I must say, I'm pretty excited about this year of movies. Some stuff got pushed back. I will say 2024, I had a list of films, and some of the things got pushed back into 2025 that I wasn't necessarily aware of, but they definitely didn't come out in 2024. So now doing my list for 2025, I've seen them coming out, like Mickey 17, one of them, Robert Pattinson movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be weird. It's going to be
It's a
goofy.
space movie, right?
Yeah, basically, he just can die as many times because they keep making clones of
Uh,
him. But they each clone gets, I think, like the memory of the last one and stuff, and like they're just trying to gain data from it. Um, it could be weird. I like Robert Pattinson personally. I know you kind of could
I
care
like him.
less.
No, I like him.
Um, you didn't like him as Batman,
I
but
did like him as Batman.
well, you didn't like the movie. You like everything about the movie except the movie itself. It doesn't really make sense. But
Correct.
yeah, you like everything about the movie except the movie. But that one got pushed back. There was a couple others that got pushed back into 2025. So this could be a really good year, I think, for movies.
All right. Well, I'm going to do my bit now. I've gone down a dark path. Started collecting sports cards.
I warned you. I
Uh-huh.
warned you. I told you not to do this.
So, one of the cards I pulled just made me laugh, and this is like just an Easter egg for one of our listeners. I pulled this Tristan Jari card. And I love that it's all like shiny, like it's some glorious special player card. And
If you can sell that for a quarter, I would highly recommend you do it.
that card is worthless, sir. But it is funny that I pulled it and it's like, oh, it's one of the special cards.
No one will even give you 25 cents for it.
I haven't looked it up because it's not even in the database I'm using.
I would give you 25 cents for it so I could light it on fire.
I would
At
I'd
this
have
point,
to.
you have to take it. I'm probably your only bidder.
Yeah, it's just funny to me. I just laughed when I saw it. Uh, anyway,
Cards are not a good investment, dude.
they except for they are. The cards I did pull are worth something more than what I paid for the card set.
Sure, but we're talking about small value dollars. So, like, if anybody knows anything about this podcast here, we give the best financial advice. And we obviously are all self made millionaires here.
Sure,
So, I guess getting into cards is like a thing since you are a self made millionaire, but like, you're not going to make yourself any richer by getting into cards.
these allegations are false. Also, I will say I did pull a Pokemon card that was worth like $50, and so it can happen. I don't know. I don't know, man. I shouldn't do this, but I started with the NHL. I'm not doing any other sports.
Do not make this a part of your life for 2025, please, Lord.
Anyway, I'm going to make this a part of my life now. Good decisions being made all around.
All those games behind him are going to be sold for in lieu of cards.
Actually, the whole thing about the games is that I got them all. And so now I'm like, well, now what do I do? It's not
Well,
good.
you play a lot of them.
I do. Too many. Okay, so we should probably wrap now. That was actually really fun.
Yeah, that was a good hour and a half.
I'm going to go see what else is on fire now.
Yeah, check out our next podcast. It's going to be the movies of 2024. I don't know why, but our producer made us do this one first.
Because I wanted to make sure that I got everything captured on my list. I did have to catch up on some things still. I mean, and Nosferatu came out on Christmas Day, so I, kind of pushing it up close to the edge there. So
Yeah, we do what you can.
yeah,
Like we said, we consume a lot of content here on this podcast.
it's
or
fun to
more
talk
than
about the
most
bad
normal
movies
people.
and the
Sure.
news stories and the shows, and it's I don't want to always talk about
Politics.
politics.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
All
we
right,
did a
so
good job here.
yeah, and the next one, we will talk about our top 15 movies and notables as well. I think we should do the notables like we did last year.
Looking
So,
forward to it.
all right, man. Have a good
See you,
one.
buddy.
Bye.